For USCFootball.com, Connor Morrissette and Chris Trevino. We're back on campus. It's time for instant analysis. We watched another practice. Chris, good to be with you as always.
Good to be with you. Not matching. Had to make a change here for our final practice where we can view a little bit of practice. So it's the end of fall camp officially, I would say.
Yeah, I got August 20th on the calendar. That means it's 10 days away from the opening game against Missouri State. Where did the time go? I'm so excited for the football season to be here. I know everyone on the peristyle with their predictions. This is going to happen, this is going to happen. Enough of the predictions. It's almost time for those to be over and we can watch some football. But yes, let's get into what we saw at practice today. So a good amount of donors were out there today, and Lincoln Riley and Chad Bowden were talking to some of the donors before practice started. So those two were paying some bills. It's very apparent that Chad Bowden is going out of his way to connect with as many of these donors as possible, and that's an example to me of him taking more work off the coaching staff that I think should potentially help the program a little bit.
They pulled up in a nice Sprinter van,
Yes.
got dropped off front. We met a couple peristyle users.
Yes.
Shout out to them. Check out the ghost notes for that. But yeah, the vibes were very high in terms of that aspect. Obviously, it was a nice little sunset in the back. You had the Bloom facility going up. You could see the future, the bright future, and General Manager Chad Bowden working for even more for the future.
And Lincoln Riley was too. He was checking in with some of the donors as well. Mekhi Lemon has looked so good returning punts all camp. That didn't change today. Chad Savage, the inside receivers and tight ends coach, he will throw big exercise balls at the punt returners to simulate a tackler. And the whole camp, Mekhi Lemon, from what I saw, never got hit with a ball one time. So fluid, so natural. I would expect big things from him in the return game. No DJ Jordan today, the receiver. We talked about him a little bit yesterday. We weren't really sure what was going on with him. He's out sick, we heard, according to a source, so that's why he wasn't there today. And then a weird sight, Chris. Caden Chittenden, the kicker, had a really weird limp, and he was walking out of practice early on before it even really started. He's been banged up all camp. That limp makes me think he's not really close to coming back. Of course, things can change, but I wouldn't be surprised if Ryan Sayeri's the kicker week one.
Absolutely. I don't know if you know this, but if you're a kicker, you need your legs. So it's not a great sign, but Ryan Sayeri has been pretty much the kicker all through camp, as Chittenden has been banged up, as Lincoln Riley said, going into fall camp. So Sayeri has been the primary kicker, and I'm assuming kickoffs as well. So yeah, if Caden isn't ready to go, big moment for the redshirt freshman who was highly decorated out of Chaminade High School. He should have his opportunity to get some field goals in and get some kickoffs.
We'll try to get an update on Caden when we can. 2 tight end set I have on my notes. USC did a 2 tight end set. That stood out to me. That was something that I wanted to mention. During some safety drills, Kamari Ramsey, Bishop Fitzgerald, then Kennedy Urlacher went through a drill. We talked about the drill hierarchy. Not that locks in Kennedy Urlacher as the third safety, but he's competing for that spot. It was interesting that he went third. Danton Lynn did some work with the linebackers. And then Walter Matthews, we can end the observations talking about him. He was back with the offensive line at the beginning of practice, but he was setting up in some of the drills as the tight end on the right side of the line. Maybe we'll see him in some jumbo packages this year.
Yeah, he's been consistently going with the offensive line during the start of individual drills after team warmups, not catching in the receiving lines with the other tight ends and other pass catchers. But yeah, he's been consistently lining up the last couple practices as sort of a tight end, just slightly off the line, off the tackle's hip. So yeah, he's been working as, I'm assuming, that jumbo tight end, for an extra blocker in there. So hopefully we'll get to see some of that early in the season. I know a lot of fans are clamoring for that, more for running and obviously for pass protection as well. So we'll see how many tight end formations we get to see throughout the season.
And during this drill, Justin Taunu'u yesterday was at right tackle. Today it was Tobias Raymond, Killian O'Connor center, Alani Noah right guard, and then Raymond right tackle, and Matthews to the right of all those guys. One other thing with the 2 tight end set, I forgot to say who was in it. It was Lake McCree and Walker Lyons. Okay, that's it for observations. Let's get into what we heard after practice, unless you had any other observations.
I think you got them all, Connor.
Danton Lynn kind of like last year. Remember, he said we're going to rotate a bunch of guys in the secondary. He didn't say that about the safeties, but he did say that about the cornerbacks. It feels like that competition is going to carry over into week one, and when you're playing Missouri State, that is A-okay. You can continue to have some of those position battles. Who do you think those two starting corners are going to be? Because Jason Johnson, it sounds like he won't be back until next week. Has Braylon Conley done enough to unseat him, or do you think Jason Johnson, when he comes back, will be a starter? It's hard to say.
Lynn obviously confirmed that Jason Johnson has been banged up. That is something we've noted. He's been out there in sneakers, which is obviously a sign that he's not going through the full motion of a full practice. So he's been banged up, as Lynn confirmed. And as you said, they expect to have him back next week. I just think that's a short amount of time for a guy who's I know he's got some experience, but he is a spring enrollee, a post-spring enrollee, summer enrollee, so he still has to catch up on the defense. I'm sure, he's doing all the studying off the field, but yeah, I'd be out there and to kind of to learn it on the field, not just in the meeting room. So I'm going to assume Braylon Conley has done enough to be able to, get a start week one, assuming with DeCarlos Nicholson, who is someone we've pegged for a long time as like, hey, this guy seems like they've been the most consistent with this group. So if I was a betting man, I would say Braylon Conley and DeCarlos Nicholson will be those first two guys out. But if Jason Johnson is fully back, I would expect him to rotate in there, DJ Harvey to be in there, probably Marcellus Williams get some shine there later on, probably some of those freshmen as well, just to get their feet wet. So yeah, I expect a lot of rotation early in the season, as Lynn said, because as he pointed out, it's still pretty tight in that room in terms of the competition.
All those guys you mentioned, I expect will play for sure. So they're still working out that starting group. But out of that group of likely starters, it seems like DeCarlos Nicholson and then Jason Johnson or Braylon Conley. Conley's had a really great camp. Cameron Fountain was asked who's a player who the fans aren't talking about enough, the media isn't talking about enough, and his answer was Braylon Conley. And this is the defensive end talking about a cornerback. So clearly he's doing something right out there, Conley, which is great to hear. I heard from Braylon Conley himself. He talked today. Was it for the first time ever? I forget if it was his first time.
I don't know if it's ever. I feel like we talked to him maybe once before. He wasn't at Media Day, so definitely not. This is the first time we talked to him this year. I feel like maybe we talked to him once, but I cannot confirm that without checking our YouTube archives. But we can say it's been the first time in a long time.
Yeah, he was calm, cool, collected. There's a quiet confidence about him. I really like what's going on with Braylon Conley. Going back to Danton Lynn, talked about how Alex Graham's been in there with the ones. This is something we've talked a lot about. We expect him to be the starting nickel. I asked him, who are some guys on the defensive line in the middle who you still want to see if you can rely on them against Big Ten opponents? Because that's what he said with the cornerback competition. I still want to figure out who I can count on against Big Ten opponents. Who do you want to see more from? He mentioned Jamal Jarrett. He mentioned Keyshawn Silver. Not that he needs to see more from Silver, just that Silver's been in and out of the lineup a little bit, so the more that he plays, the better. But Jamal Jarrett's been more out than in, I'd say, this camp. And so I think the fact that Lynn mentioned him first was significant. And then he said for Floyd Buchard, we want to see a little bit more consistency. That was the thing, going back to Braylon Conley for a second, that Lynn has been blown away with from year one to year two. Conley made some great plays last year, but he had been inconsistent, and his bad plays were bad. A big thing with Lynn is making sure, and Riley, making sure your bad plays don't kill the team. They're only, maybe small completions here or there, so Conley's improving there. And the big, most improved guy, Cam Fountain, Lynn continues to pump up Fountain, a guy who he thinks is just night and day from where he was a year ago. And he's only a second-year guy, Cam Fountain, but it seems like he's going to start, Chris, and it seems like expectations are really high. That's a good sign.
Fountain is personally my pick, and Shotgun's pick, if you listen to the Helium Boys, our pick for him to lead this team in sacks. We're looking at around 9.5, which would be a great output for obviously a true sophomore going into his first season as a starter. So I know it's a high bar, but he has that level of talent to get it done. We saw the flashes last year when he played as a true freshman. He was super raw. Now you have a higher football IQ, a higher ceiling. You hope it leads to more pass rush, especially with the interior and those helping of those linebackers. So Cameron Fountain, yeah, I know that's a big number, but I believe he can get there.
Carlin Jones was a guy who Lynn talked about being a little bit rusty because he hadn't played a lot, but he described him as playing awesome right now. He's someone who worked in a little bit more than I anticipated in some of the stuff that we've been able to see. So I don't know how big of a role he'll have this year, but before, if you asked me about Carlin Jones, I'd kind of say, I'm not really sure about his future at USC. Now, to me, it looks like he has a chance to be in the mix and potentially, if it's not this year, be on the right track for next year. And if there are injuries, I think he could play. The fact that he's been the healthiest he's ever been is consistent, and he's a guy I think's on the right track.
A big 4-star that they signed end of last cycle. A lot of hype buzz around him out of Texas, really productive. But that injury bug got him as a summer enrollee. That's a typical thing we see with freshmen. You see a lot of buzz, but then they have an injury that they had all through high school that needs to be fixed when they're on campus in colleges, and you can get them fixed easier on a college campus. So that he was one of those guys, and yeah, there was some rust there, and I know people had high expectations for him. So I'm really excited to see what he can bring. Number 92. I tend to think he's going to have a role this season. It might not be a massive role, but I think we're going to see him part of the rotation early on. I think he's going to get some run, see what it looks like out there. His first college games, those action with Missouri State and Georgia Southern. But he's a guy I said really need to get him some reps this season. I think he's got a lot of potential. As I said, a former 4-star, interesting body type, really productive in getting in the backfield. Looks like he's moving more to like a nose tackle role. We know they have some good bodies there already, but I think he's taken hold of some opportunities this fall camp here late with some guys being out, and I think we're going to see that pay off with some reps this season, and I think he's going to get a decent amount of time.
I asked Cam Fountain what fans can expect from the USC defense this year. His eyes lit up, and he just talked about how he feels like it's a whole new defense from last year to this year. He's a lot more confident. He's ready. He's excited. He said the fans will just have to see August 30th. He also talked about, this was kind of a funny story, when he early enrolled with Jade Abasiri, they were lifting, and they must have been squatting, because he said Jade had 6 45-pound plates on each side of the bar and was squatting, and Cam Fountain looked over and said, "Get me away from that man. I don't want to be lifting weights with him." That brought an audible laugh from everyone in the scrum. Jade, when he walks out, Chris, he just continues to look like a bodybuilder. The guy is jacked, and I'm not surprised that he was putting up that kind of weight. We'll see what it translates to on the field, but I mean, if you're that strong, you're clearly doing something right.
I know Connor's in the gym a lot. How many plates are you pushing?
No comment.
Okay, that's all I got for you.
No plates. Eric Gentry, health is on his mind. That's what he talked about. And
last guy to talk to us?
Yeah,
today?
Last guy to talk to us. And of course health is on his mind. A guy who suffered some concussion issues last year and had to redshirt and
ankle surgery.
He's been through the ringer. A healthy season for him would be huge. He said he's a big fan of Adrian Clem, the defensive analyst, who is doing a lot with the linebackers, telling them what to expect from offensive linemen. And Gentry was asked 2 years ago, was that even a consideration for you? Which I thought he was going to say yes, because linebackers going up against offensive linemen is so important, and he said no. So the fact that he's advancing in his scouting of just how to play the position is huge, and Adrian Clem's a big part of that. He said the team's been hanging out all summer and that they're closer than ever. And he also said that he treats Desmond Stevens like one of his kids because he's a younger player, making sure that he's looking out for Desmond Stevens, the Mike linebacker to Gentry's will position. Seems like those guys have a great bond.
This is why I'm tired of talking about all this stuff going to the season. I'm excited to see Eric Gentry and Desmond Stevens together. I want to see that combination out on the field. I know USC fans are as well. They're excited to see Eric Gentry back. They're excited to see the young potential superstar sophomore in Desmond Stevens, his heir to the Mike position. And, we've seen those guys not arm in arm, but they've been like two locked in people, coming out to practice. They're always kind of coming out together. They're always the last people to come out for practice. So they have this really tight bond, and I'm excited to see what that kind of translates to on the field for USC's defense in the middle. And as we know, Eric Gentry could be a special player, like a literal All-American player, and that's not hyperbole. That's like true. That's the level he was playing at last year before he got hurt. So if he is healthy, he is the talisman for this defense. If he's playing well, this entire defense is playing well. We've said it multiple times, but I'm tired of talking about it, Connor. I'm ready to see it once again. Week 1, August 30th. I'm excited.
I think he's going to lead the team in sacks. That's my prediction. You heard from Micah Benuelos, Chris, the one offensive player to talk today. He didn't talk yesterday, so they had him talk today, fighting for a spot at left guard. What did you learn from Micah Benuelos?
Yeah, not anything like super groundbreaking like when I talked to Alani and his weight and stuff, but he's just really excited to have an impact this season. 2 seasons here, 29 career snaps, been battling injuries for most of that time. So he's healthy, he's ready, he's confident. He's in a position to possibly start, and I would expect we're going to see a lot of Micah Benuelos through these first 2 weeks as they, try to figure out their rotation, get some guys some reps that need reps, him being one of them, if he's going to be a key backup or a key starter for this team. really excited just for this opportunity. And, I talked about, because obviously he's had a really interesting career so far as someone who we thought was going to play a center for Josh Henson. I believe he was like the first guy he really recruited when he got to USC, wanted him as his future center. And that didn't really take place. The injuries kind of sidetracked that, and then last year we saw him playing left tackle, like the backup left tackle, which we were like, what is going on here? Obviously, he's got some super long arms relative to his size, but I was like, is that hard? Just like you thought you were going to be a center, and then you're playing left tackle, and now you're back to guard. He was like, I don't think that was really hard. I was a versatile guy out of high school. That's what he said. Like, I used to play all over the line, so for me it wasn't that tough. But I just want to see what he was going to say, because going to college, you don't necessarily bounce around like that. You kind of focus on one position. So I thought it's been an interesting path for him. Needless to say, as a guy we thought was going to play center, maybe he could play left tackle, but now at the guard, it looks like he has found a home for right now, and that's a place where I think he could really contribute for USC. And again, he's just really excited about the coaching he's getting under Zach Hanson. I asked him about that as well. Josh Henson, as I mentioned, was the guy. He made him his center. He's like, I want you, the first guy I recruited from when he was at Texas A&M and then went to USC. So they were really close. But he says, I really enjoyed learning from Zach Hanson. I can't remember the phrasing, but just the way he was talking about it, it seems like he really likes the coaching style that Zach Hanson has. It allows him to, if he's going to make a mistake, that's okay. But the coaching style allows him to like reset, kind of learn from his mistakes, and then go out there and do it better. So this is something we've heard from Elijah Page during Big 12 Media Day. This is a style of coaching that Zach Hanson brings that a lot of the guys have been responding to. So I think that's just another point of emphasis that we hear from Micah, that Zach Hanson's doing some different things in that room.
Were you involved in any other scrums, or will that do it?
That will do it for me. That was all I got.
Great. Thanks, Chris. He's Chris Trevino, Connor Morrissette. This has been Instant Analysis. We'll be back next week with probably not as much analysis, not being able to watch, but we'll do the best we can. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you then.